You're listening to The World at 8 with Lynn Moser. The World at 8, the number one in nationalist news.
Highlights of the news today, the 5th of March. Disgusting scenes in Libya with attacks on war graves on YouTube. Illegal Sikh immigrant sentenced for murder. UKIP thugs turned out of pub. Vladimir Putin has won the Russian election. Christian churches attacked in Israel. China to expand its military capacity. Boko Haram say they will erase Christianity from Nigeria. Thought for the day. Proud and prejudiced and more. UK news. Libyan rebel Muslims have attacked the British Commonwealth war graves in Libya. The Muslims made a video and posted it on YouTube, showing the world these disgusting acts perpetrated on the last resting place of British and Commonwealth servicemen from the Second World War. The gravestones were hit with hammers and kicked over. At one point the armed group then attacked a large cross with hammers. Using a ladder they smashed the sandstone cross to the ground. There is a deep feeling of anger amongst the families of the British and Commonwealth soldiers buried in these graves. A British National Party spokesperson commented, "The government and the media of this country caused and supported the fall of Gaddafi, and as predicted by World at 8, these are the Muslim fundamentalists who we put in his place that carried out this obscenity. Under Gaddafi at least these memorials remained untouched." An illegal immigrant has been given a 4-year sentence for the murder of his housemate in Leicester. Amitpreet Singh, aged 23, stabbed his victim to death when he was in what was described as a drunken state. The victim, Harinderjit Singh, 25, was knifed in the neck, cutting his main artery, and bled to death within minutes. Both illegals were sharing a house with several other illegal immigrants from India. The British public can't understand why the sentence was so short and whether he will be deported when it is served. A gaggle of drunken right-wing political activists were kicked out of several public houses on one night of shame. No, it wasn't the British National Party, the EDL or even National Front. It was the UK Independence Party. 25 members of this party, including ex-MP Neil Hamilton, were handing out flyers and began threatening bar staff when asked to leave. They were covered in UKIP badges and were described by some of the pub's residents as rude and brash, a right bunch of hooray Henrys. The main hostelry involved was the Red Lion in Skegness, Lincolnshire, but they had all been in trouble previously at the Stumble Inn, where they were also asked to leave as the pub was apolitical. Euronews. Russian Premier Vladimir Putin has won the presidential election in Russia. Mr. Putin's opponents are claiming that this was election fraud. A mass protest by the activists against Mr. Putin's party is expected to be staged in Moscow. The president gathered over 60% of the electoral turnout and was said to be overwhelmed with joy at the result of the election. About 25,000 people are expected to attend a protest against Mr. Putin's election victory after a pro-Putin election win celebration. World news. A Christian Orthodox church has been attacked along with a Christian cemetery on Mount Zion and other places of Christian worship by Israeli hardliners. The anti-Christian attack on Christian holy places in Jerusalem is a total disgrace, one spokesperson commented. Israeli fundamentalists also attacked a monastery in the Valley of the Cross and daubed Greeks out on the building. A top official from the Catholic Church has asked the Israeli Prime Minister to stop the attacks on Christian places of worship in Israel. China is to expand its military by more than 10% this year, reports from China are claiming. It is said that the Chinese government has made the decision on the outlook of territorial quarrels with its neighbours. The country is to expand its air force and navy to protect its borders, one report said. Barack Obama is in talks with the Israeli Prime Minister over the issue of attacking Iran. Iran, an oil-rich country like Iraq was, is building a nuclear power plant to run its cities when its oil finally runs out. Both Israel and the United States are trying hard to convince the world of a good reason to take over Iran for its oil, one source has commented. The fact is that despite any ridiculous lies about Iranians using electricity and the US wanting oil by invading Iran, etc., the sad fact is that once Iran has nuclear capacity for distributing a nuclear warhead, then it is not only the Middle East that is in danger but the entire world, and it will be too late to rethink what needs to be done. The group of Nigerian Muslim terrorists named as Boko Haram have vowed to wipe out Christians in Nigeria. Daily attacks on Christian Nigerians have had their death toll rise again by suicide bomb attacks. Nigeria, which is now predominantly Muslim, has allowed these attacks on Christians, including the destruction of many Christian churches. Thought for the day. Well, a short comment on the Israeli attacks in Christian churches. Unusual and awful though these are, try building a Christian church in Saudi and other Muslim countries and you would not be allowed to do so, let alone have it standing hundreds of years. The Putin election? What right have we to yell not fair when our own elections are rigged, with lost ballot boxes and incredible masses of postal votes for Labour from whole streets of Asians in weeks before the actual voting? People in glass houses should not throw stones. All elections are rigged. Now, proud and prejudiced. I watched this and of course it ran its way to the usual ultimate conclusion. Nationalists nil point, Muslims deux points. It started out very promising with the Muslim fundamentalists throwing a punch at the EDL leader through a car window. What happened? Why was he not arrested for assault? If Mr Robinson had punched him, all hell would have broken loose in Luton. Indeed, the whole world would have stopped turning. My thoughts on Mr Robinson is that at least he has the guts to stand up for what he believes in, under terrible odds. Not only does he have the whole Muslim community to fear, and believe me, more are pouring into these towns every day, but he has the heavily biased British media, who one would think they are about to convert to Islam and point their heads towards Mecca. By the way, where the hell is Mecca in relation to the UK, as if I really care? What worried me immensely, and should worry all Brits and people who have settled and integrated here, is that even the so-called moderate Muslims stated categorically that Sharia law should be the norm in the UK. Am I losing it? Are we all sitting in some Middle East country having converted to radical Islam, or have we all immigrated to Saudi? Are we all living in some wonderful bubble of Islamic heaven? No, we are in England, the UK, Great Britain, and help. The one point that seems to be slipping away in all of these documentaries is that these Muslims, whether radical or not, are not in their own country. They are in my country. When one, no doubt well-meaning Muslim told us in effect that if Sharia law was put in place, we, the great British public, would have better communities. No drunkenness, no prostitution, no gambling, and things would be quieter and better for us. Oh yeah? Well, if anyone out there thinks it would be similar to living in the Arabian Nights, think again. You would also be forced to live in communities or ghettos in your own place of birth. If you did not convert, you would be a third-class citizen, if one at all. No dogs, they are considered unclean, and already there are rules that forbid police dogs entering Muslim houses. No pigs or pig farming, no public houses, no clubs, no gambling, no prostitutes, other than the young girls taken from other religions and divided up for Muslim use only, no decent meat, and a list of what we would lose as a people is just limitless. True, we could all do without drunken ladettes and guys, but what would Sharia do about black lads and gang crime? A bit too near the bone here, I think, especially concerning Somali gangs, because most Somalis are Muslim. Don't for a minute think we would all be floating around in gossamer burqas with Arabian princes for husbands, trilling passages from the Koran in a wonderful peaceful Stepford Wives setting. Wake up. It would be brutal and nasty. Islam would turn what is left of our Greenland into a war zone. People do not change and religions change even less. I would like to force most of our government and civil service, council workers, union workers, the BBC en masse, and all Marxist liberals to spend a month in the middle of Saudi, Yemen, Somalia or Nigeria, just to see what unfettered horrors the Islamic world can produce. I am very cruel because I would leave them there to rot for all eternity. One thing we nationalists never learn is that the media in all its glory are our enemies. They always will be. I know only too well that they appear friendly, helpful and seem to accept your views. Do not be fooled. By the time your film reaches the screen it has been cut, shredded and decimated. The entire reason given for doing the thing in the first place has been lost, misappropriated and redone completely. The one shot in P&P that they dwelt on was the drunken escapade of Mr Robinson and the effect next morning. He will have to join the ranks of well-meaning nationalists who eventually come onto screen looking like total prats, with all words and actions taken out of context, in fact into a parallel universe, but welcome to the club. One point was overwhelmingly sad for me. It was the fact that Mr Robinson and his supporters were kettled and barracked, while seemingly hordes of Muslims, including women looking like Daleks, were allowed to march in all their ghastly glory, brandishing placards that were nothing short of racial and religious incitement to hatred and bigotry, with our police looking on approvingly. I hope one day the police come off their imposed fence-sitting and be on the side of the people who pay them their salaries and whose children swell their ranks. Nationalists have very long memories, my friends. And finally, Stargazers in Britain turned their heads towards the heavens on Saturday evening, when what seemed to be an orange object followed by a trail travelled across the sky. Astronomers have claimed that it was a shooting star many thousands of miles away that lit up the night sky. Claims have also been made it was the size of a fist. So no need to panic, it wasn't E.T. on his way home. You have been listening to The World at 8. I am Lynn Mozart, and I wish you all a very happy and safe good night. The British Commonwealth war graves in Libya. The Muslims made a video and posted it on YouTube, showing the world these disgusting acts perpetrated on the last resting place of British and Commonwealth servicemen from the Second World War. The gravestones were hit with hammers and kicked over. At one point the armed group then attacked a large cross with hammers. Using a ladder they smashed the sandstone cross to the ground. There is a deep feeling of anger amongst the families of the British and Commonwealth soldiers buried in these graves. A British National Party spokesperson commented, "The government and the media of this country caused and supported the fall of Gaddafi, and as predicted by World at 8, these are the Muslim fundamentalists who we put in his place that carried out this obscenity. Under Gaddafi at least these memorials remained untouched." An illegal immigrant has been given a 4-year sentence for the murder of his housemate in Leicester. Amy Preet.
You're listening to The World at 8 with Lynn Mozart. The World at 8, the number one in nationalist news.
Highlights of the news today, the 5th of March. Disgusting scenes in Libya with attacks on war graves on YouTube. Illegal Sikh immigrant sentenced for murder. UKIP thugs turned out of pub. Vladimir Putin has won the Russian election. Christian churches attacked in Israel. China to expand its military capacity. Boko Haram say they will erase Christianity from Nigeria. Thought for the day, proud and prejudiced, and more. UK News. Libyan rebel Muslims have attacked Singh, aged 23, stabbed his victim to death when he was in what was described as a drunken state. The victim, Harinderjit Singh, 25, was knifed in the neck, cutting his main artery, and bled to death within minutes. Both illegals were sharing a house with several other illegal immigrants from India. The British public cannot understand why the sentence was so short and whether he will be deported when it is served. A